You came up with a very interesting concept, the total state control of information. What did you mean by that?
I think that there are quite a couple of levels or layers to that. To start with, you realize that we talked earlier about African journalists going on sponsored exchange programs to China. One of the things that then will be introduced to them is to understand what can be said about China and what can't be said. What would be so-called forbidden is a word that is often used, and what is allowed. And this then will tend to indicate control of information. And the understanding in China more broadly is that information is just an asset, as a resource, it's capital, just the way you have economic assets, buildings, cars, and, machines, and so forth. Information is as well. It is understood that China is in an information war or information warfare with the West particularly, and also in Africa in itself. And that as in another warfare, information warfare also comes with lots of control. But again, there is a sense in which there's the exporting of the Chinese model of media practices. So much so that, for example, criticism of the CCP, the Communist Party of China, in some respects, is not allowed in China and therefore shouldn't be allowed in Africa in a sense. We've seen, of course, control of the internet. We all know that certain digital or tech companies are not operational in China. And that control mechanism is sometimes exported to the African continent in various forms. A good example being the use of Chinese technologies to control, or sometimes in fact to just knock out the internet. Internet blockages, particularly around times when there are controversial political happenings like elections. We've seen situations which have actually been openly reported on. For example, African countries working with Chinese colleagues to look at how to manage the internet in such a way that there aren't informational items that kind of affect the relations or are too critical, hypercritical of leaders. And we've seen this in Tanzania. We saw, for example, in Nigeria when former President Muhammadu Buhari banned Twitter. At the point, there was quite heavy talk of borrowing from the Chinese model of, if you can't in fact control it, it's even beyond control at that point. It is, you just eviscerate that. And in fact, another aspect of the control mechanism will be issues to do around surveillance. I think we've also seen quite a good number of cases in which Chinese technologies might have been used to access information. I think the famous case is the one at the AU in 2018 that was heavily reported, and there are quite a number of others that have been reported as well.